Chapter 1: The Obesity Pandemic and Food Addiction. If you're reading these lines, you're likely already suffering from weight issues, or your body has begun to rapidly accumulate fat. This probably didn't cause you any serious concern before. After all, a slight excess of weight has never been considered a disadvantage. On the contrary, at all times, being overweight has been a visible sign of health, strength, and beauty. People treated obesity with respect. They believed that fat tissue was a sign of well-being, and also a powerful source of vital energy, stored away for a rainy day. This reserve of energy helped people survive difficult times of war, epidemics, and famine. This has always been the case. But in the second half of the 20th century, everything changed. Universal prosperity, which had remained the primary goal of human society throughout its millennia-long history, finally arrived. But once this happened, it turned out that humans, as a species, had fallen into a dangerous trap of their own making. Causes and prevalence of obesity. The world is engulfed in an obesity pandemic. Excess weight has become the main global problem facing humanity at the turn of the 20th and 21st centuries. The number of overweight people is constantly growing, exponentially. According to the World Health Organization, more than 1.9 billion adults on planet Earth are currently overweight. Of these, more than 650 million are obese. Over the past 40 years, the number of obese people has more than tripled and continues to rise rapidly. There are many reasons for the emergence and development of the obesity pandemic. One of them is that humanity has never before lived in an era of food abundance. All the compensatory mechanisms inherent in us by nature were developed through evolution. They are primarily aimed at overcoming crisis situations, which have arisen frequently throughout human history, including difficult periods in life associated with prolonged forced restriction or deprivation of food. By nature's design, our body accumulates fat tissue to build up reserves in preparation for difficult times. The breakdown of fat tissue releases a colossal amount of calories, which, during times of famine and deprivation, become the main source for meeting all energy needs and requirements of our body. Thanks to this mechanism, humans have survived in difficult living conditions. All living creatures strive to be satiated while food is available, since periods of well-fed, restful life have always been rare and short-lived. But in a crisis-free economy, when a well-fed life has ceased to be a privilege and has become a universal asset, excess weight has gone from being the body's ally to its worst enemy. It turns out that when the natural mechanisms for intensive fat utilization remain unused and fat tissue is not used for years, the body becomes ill. Our bodies know how to overcome starvation, but they have no idea how to cope with an abundance of food. The body is unable to spontaneously speed up metabolism and expend excess energy from food, simply to burn off excess calories. The only mechanism nature has created to overcome overeating is the storage of energy by forming fat tissue. Excessive food consumption and weight gain are fueled not only by the increased availability of food due to agricultural overproduction, but also by the widespread adoption of the new fast food culture worldwide. People have begun consuming high-calorie, ready-to-eat meals high in easily digestible fats and washing them down with sugary carbonated drinks. This has played a cruel joke on the human body. It has been unable to adapt to the calorie overload. The dolce vita has resulted in a rapid rise in obesity. Besides overeating, technological progress has brought with it another problem threatening human health. It has created new living conditions in which physical inactivity has become widespread. Previously, life was always associated with movement. Now, it's possible to live sitting and even lying down. And not just live, but even thrive. In the modern world, most people lead a sedentary lifestyle. Since 2014, the American Endocrine Society has defined obesity as a chronic disease caused by the excess accumulation of adipose tissue. The highest number of obese people lives in economically developed countries. Today, the prosperity of any country can be indirectly assessed by the number of obese people living there. The higher the standard of living, the higher the incidence of obesity. However, even in poor countries, the problem of excess weight is gaining momentum and becoming increasingly serious. Its negative impact on public health is beginning to rival even traditional problems in these countries, such as infectious diseases and hunger. Each year, more people die from obesity worldwide than from hunger. The United States leads the world in obesity rates. There, the percentage of people diagnosed with obesity by a doctor is 38%, and within 10 to 15 years, the incidence is projected to rise to 45%. In the European Union, according to various estimates, the percentage of overweight adults ranges from 30 to 70%. And 10 to 30% of the population is obese. Japan is the healthiest country in this regard, with only 4% of its population diagnosed as obese. In America, 55% of the population is overweight. According to the latest data from the Institute of Nutrition, 1 in 3 people is overweight, and 1 in 4 is obese. Doctors are generally reluctant to diagnose obesity. Despite this, over 2 million people have been diagnosed with the condition. Traditionally, obese people are predominantly women. However, recently, there has been an increase in the incidence among children and men. Over 60% of children are overweight. This is simply because adults feed them improperly. Statistics from other sources may differ slightly from those I'm citing, especially since they are constantly increasing, but in any case, these figures give a true picture of the scale of the disaster affecting the population of our planet. Body mass index. There are many methods for determining excess weight and diagnosing obesity. One of the simplest is calculating the body mass index, BMI. To determine whether you are obese or merely overweight, which is also not entirely normal, divide your weight in kilograms by your height in meters squared. Of course, everything is not without its challenges. For a more accurate diagnosis of obesity, it is necessary to adjust for age, body shape, and muscle mass. The presence of comorbidities and many other factors must be taken into account. However, overall, this method allows for a fairly objective determination of excess weight and assessment of the degree of obesity. To determine whether you are obese or underweight, compare your BMI with the International Classification of Underweight and Obesity. A normal BMI ranges from 18 to 25. A BMI below 18 indicates underweight. Significant underweight occurs when the BMI drops to 16 or lower. Thus, underweight can be considered a BMI between 16 and 19. A BMI above 25 indicates overweight. A BMI between 25 and 30 indicates pre-obesity. A BMI above 30 clearly indicates obesity. Class 1 obesity is defined as a BMI between 30 and 35. Class 2 obesity is defined as a BMI between 35 and 40. A BMI above 40 indicates serious health problems and indicates Class 3 obesity. As I mentioned earlier, normal BMI values change with age. Below are the acceptable BMI values for different age groups. The dangers of obesity. It's important to remember that excess weight is more than just a cosmetic defect. It's a serious condition that affects virtually every internal organ and system in the body. Excessive accumulation of adipose tissue is believed to negatively impact the functioning of at least 9 organ systems. Our bodies don't know how to get rid of excess fat and are powerless to combat this problem. Obesity disrupts metabolism, causing the body to function improperly, leading to numerous malfunctions and impairments. In today's world, there's a sharp increase in overall morbidity and deteriorating public health associated with excess weight. In 1950, obesity was included in the International Classification of Diseases. Obesity not only poses a serious threat to human health in and of itself, but is also the underlying cause of many serious illnesses. These include atherosclerosis, coronary heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, varicose veins, arthritis and arthrosis, cancer, and physical inactivity. And this list is far from exhaustive. It's easy to see that all of these diseases are leading causes of death. The negative impact of obesity on life expectancy is obvious. It is believed that even mild excess weight shortens life by approximately 5 to 7 years, while obesity shortens life by at least 15. Scientists have determined that solving the obesity problem could increase the average life expectancy of the global population by at least 4 years. Meanwhile, discovering a cure for cancer and other malignant neoplasms would increase this figure by only 1 year. In addition to its negative impact on life expectancy, obesity impairs reproductive function in women and causes infertility, and in men, it leads to decreased testosterone synthesis and, consequently, loss of potency. In other words, excessive accumulation of adipose tissue leads to a decline in the birth rate and poses a real threat to the survival of Homo sapiens as a species. Research convincingly demonstrates that obesity is a lifelong condition. It cannot go away or be cured on its own. Active medical intervention is always necessary to eliminate excess weight. The obesity pandemic, currently being recorded worldwide, has proven to be one of the most serious problems of our time. Intensive research is underway in all countries to find ways and means to combat this disease. Tens of billions of dollars are spent annually on obesity control programs worldwide. In recent years, detailed studies have been conducted on the genetic and metabolic regulation of body weight. One of the most important was the discovery in 1994 of the OB gene, CHD 1994, and the associated protein leptin. Its study allowed scientists to establish patterns regulating the amount of adipose tissue in the body. Scientists have even dubbed it the obesity gene. The first studies of the OB gene's association with obesity and diabetes yielded encouraging results. It seemed that a more detailed study would soon lead to the development of new treatments for obesity and diabetes using drugs based on the protein leptin. Unfortunately, this enthusiasm proved premature, to say the least. Research has reached a dead end. However, the search for a leptin-based drug continues actively today. Modern obesity treatments. Obesity treatments available in modern medicine are not systematized. They are typically based on proprietary concepts. Currently, numerous weight loss methods exist, which in itself indicates that they are not universal. The most effective ones are often labor-intensive and sometimes even dangerous to health. Most of them involve various diets. Almost everyone tries them to lose weight, but only a few achieve lasting results. Of course, if you stick to a diet for a long time, weight loss is inevitable, and that's what the plan is all about. However, it's clear that it's impossible to significantly restrict your diet or live half-starved for life. After a while, you slip up, and your weight not only returns to its original level but continues to increase. When fighting excess weight, it's important not just to lose weight but also to maintain a healthy weight. Dieting alone isn't enough. Success lies in changing your eating behavior and overcoming your food addiction. In this regard, interest in psychotherapeutic programs for eating behavior modification has increased dramatically in the treatment of obesity. What is food addiction? The term food addiction is a relatively new term. Its emergence is linked to new trends in approaches to the problem of excess weight. Modern research has revealed that the habit of overeating develops according to the patterns of severe toxic addictions, such as alcoholism and drug addiction. The emergence and development of any addiction is facilitated by intrafamily and intrapersonal conflicts or contradictions, which foster feelings of guilt and an unconscious desire to evade responsibility. The inability to find solutions to real-life problems and a subconscious desire for psychological comfort provoke individuals to withdraw from reality. A fairly common method of voluntary escape from life is the systematic use of various chemical substances that can actively affect a person's psychological state. These include drugs, alcohol, and certain medications. Another possible scenario for mitigating the traumatic impact of reality is one that does not involve the use of chemicals. In this case, a shift in interests and a kind of substitution of priorities occurs. An all-consuming passion for certain activities or objects becomes paramount in life. Such behavioral addictions include gambling, shopping, various types of collecting, workaholism, and even love. It is believed that non-chemical addictions, to varying degrees, are common to all people. Moreover, modern psychiatry asserts that no person is without addiction. In everyday life, when an addiction doesn't turn a person into a sociopath, it's not considered a deviation from the norm. It's simply a form of psychological adaptation. A disease can only be considered when a behavioral addiction becomes dominant and, having completely taken over and subjugated the personality, adapts moral principles and ethics to suit itself, changing the entire way of life of the person and their loved ones so much that it begins to determine their actions and attitudes. There are also intermediate forms of addiction, which are conventionally located between chemical and behavioral addictions. Food addiction is one such form. Altered eating behavior, which contributes to overeating and weight gain, exhibits all the characteristic features of classic addiction. It has been established that, like all other addictions, food addiction follows characteristic cyclical laws in its development. 1. The first phase, overvaluation. A person unexpectedly begins to perceive food not simply as a means of maintaining physical strength, but as an opportunity to experience pleasure, relieve psychological stress, free themselves from burdensome, unpleasant thoughts, and escape from problems. The realization of food's ability to become a psychological shield, reliably protecting against the adverse effects of the external environment and its power over reality, evokes delight and a sense of victory. 2. This unique epiphany contributes to euphoria, the second phase of addiction. During this stage, an uncontrollable increase in food consumption begins. Uncontrolled weight gain occurs. The person feels as if problems have retreated, gone away from life. They don't see them or simply try to ignore them. All is well. Food brings freedom and joy to life. 3. During a period of unrestrained food consumption, the idea of what's normal changes very quickly. Naturally, it increases. The amount of food one can afford to eat increases. The threshold of satiety shifts. In order to experience the pleasure of satiety, more and more food is needed. The growing tolerance that occurs during this period is a characteristic sign of the third phase of any addiction. 4. Along with tolerance, weight increases. When it becomes so excessive that it begins to cause problems, an inevitable rethinking of the role and significance of food in life occurs. In this fourth phase of addiction, food is no longer perceived as a release from life's troubles, but rather becomes a problem itself. Conflicts arise with oneself and others. Self-esteem declines. Various neurotic states or even depression develop, which in turn only exacerbate the problem and lead to increased food consumption. As a result, the person comes to the realization that they need to address their excess weight. A determination to lose those extra pounds arises. Food intake is severely restricted. Everything is placed under strict control. But self-restriction and self-torture not only negatively impact metabolism but also exacerbate psychological problems. 5. Food addiction enters its fifth phase, associated with the development of withdrawal syndrome. This is a psychological state experienced by all people on a diet. Irritability and conflict increase, and stress tolerance decreases. A profound sense of dissatisfaction with oneself and life develops. A feeling of psychological impasse develops, a subconscious conviction that the problem has no solution, that everything is futile. Ultimately, everything ends in a relapse. The person returns to excessive food consumption and, as a rule, quickly regains the weight and body size they lost with great difficulty. Relapse is the fifth phase of any addiction. Then the cycle repeats itself. I've specifically focused on this aspect of the excess weight problem to clearly demonstrate the importance of psychological support for anyone who's decided to lose weight. The role of psychotherapy in obesity treatment. Psychotherapeutic treatments can address food addiction at any stage of its development, not only significantly increasing the effectiveness of traditional treatments but also blocking its internal mechanisms. Just as it's impossible to cure alcoholism simply by stopping drinking, excess weight loss can't be achieved through dieting alone. Until the mechanisms that fuel food addiction are disrupted, quitting a diet will repeatedly trigger relapses and further weight gain. Eating behavioral psychotherapy isn't simply appetite suppression techniques and the ability to stop eating in time. It's something more. It's a tool capable of changing not only your attitude toward food, but also your personality and your life as a whole. Systematic psychotherapeutic work with your conscious and subconscious mind allows you to develop a correct ranking of your life priorities, see the true causes of your problems, and identify solutions. Using audio technologies such as intraoral neurosessions, developed by the NP Bectoreva Institute of the Human Brain, you can successfully adjust your self-image, increase your self-esteem, and overcome neuroses and depression. By working with your personality, you begin to set meaningful goals, rather than creating illusory ones. You enjoy the opportunity to move toward them and achieve them. You achieve your intended results. You realize your potential. You rejoice in true victories, not surrogate ones. The ability to face life head-on eliminates the very desire to hide from it in an artificially created house called addiction, including food addiction. In addition to directly influencing the mechanisms of the emergence and development of food addiction, specialized psychological techniques help activate metabolism and the natural mechanisms for intensive use of fat tissue, encouraging the body to function as it should in situations involving forced deprivation or restriction of food. These are special algorithms created by nature during the process of evolution. They are ingrained in each of us. These techniques allow the body to stop accumulating fat and begin actively using it as a source of vital energy. As a result, fat volume is rapidly reduced. Weight loss occurs according to natural algorithms, without any health complications. These psychotherapeutic techniques not only allow for effective and safe fat burning while maintaining active muscle mass and central nervous system function, but also prevent relapse and weight gain after discontinuing treatment. They make it possible to optimize metabolism and further monitor weight and body size trends, thereby maintaining the desired results. There are psychological practices that help overcome withdrawal symptoms in the initial stages of transitioning to a healthy diet. They help motivate oneself to overcome difficulties and achieve results, focus on what's important, escape depression, and avoid psychological apathy and self-doubt. As we can see, mental self-regulation has many applications in weight loss. A normal weight isn't just about a good figure and excellent health. It's also a reflection of a person's excellent psychological state. The pursuit of an ideal weight is the pursuit of an ideal self. In modern medicine, the treatment of obesity requires taking into account the specifics of a person's psychological state. Achieving lasting results without addiction treatment and psychological correction of eating behavior is simply impossible. But before we discuss how to use these methods, we'll learn how to set goals correctly. This is essential for our body to understand what we want from it. In a psychological sense, a goal isn't simply "I want." It's a program for the body's functioning, aimed at a specific, very concrete result. It's the correct tuning of the conscious and subconscious. It's the mobilization and optimization of the body's primary and reserve forces to realize a desire, to achieve your dreams. Setting and understanding your goals correctly is crucial. Goal setting is crucial in any endeavor. Why should it be any different when fighting excess weight? We'll discuss how to set weight loss goals correctly and how to achieve them in detail in the next chapter. For now, remember, any goal becomes realistic and achievable if it's set correctly.